Good morning, dear friends. My name is Igor Ikovenko. It is now 7:41 in Kyiv. Today is February 20th. And we continue our daily morning reflections. Let's talk about what is currently happening in Russia, in the world, in Ukraine, and within our very souls. Well, from yesterday, perhaps the most important event. At least that's what the American president seems to believe. The President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, considered the meeting of the Peace Council, which took place yesterday in Washington and was attended by representatives from 47 countries, to be significant. Well, I'm not going to read out the full official transcript of what Donald Trump said. I will instead briefly summarize his points. Well, first of all, he stated that today is the single most important day. In fact, every day when Trump does something, and he always does or says something, that day is the most important day. He announced that they, the participants of this peace council, are making peace. Once again, he explained to everyone that this peace council, in his name, is the most influential council in human history, that nothing like this has ever existed before. He said in a threatening manner that those who did not accept the invitation will definitely accept it because there's no way to outsmart them. So basically, that's how it was. It sounded very threatening. He once again strongly emphasized that he successfully stopped 7 wars, that order will be restored in Gaza, and that Gaza will become a successful and safe place. He talked about how 9 countries allocated more than $7 billion for humanitarian aid to Gaza. I am going to list out these countries for you right now because Trump didn't specifically mention them, but it is absolutely true and factual. Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, the United Arab Emirates, Morocco, Italy, and Kuwait. These include Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and also Uzbekistan. I think I named them all. As a matter of fact, they collectively contributed more than $7 billion in total. And in addition to that, the United States of America also pledged to contribute another $10 billion. Perhaps, just as Donald Trump suggested, Russia and China will join in too. Regarding Russia, I can say right away, sorry, it's not Trump, it's me. It means that Putin said that it is not a question. A billion, please, as much as you want. So that's where you have it. There are 5 billion Russian rubles, more held in the United States, frozen. Here is 1 billion of them, please take it. Well, it seems like something went wrong. So far, this hasn't actually happened yet. And most importantly, he went on to explain that the International Peace Council will closely monitor the United Nations. How this process will be carried out and the threat it poses to the UN itself remains unclear, but nevertheless. Besides this, Trump made several other important statements. First of all, he explained that he had recently started learning various geographical names, and in particular, he finally learned the rich and complex word Azerbaijan. This was important because before this point, he constantly, so to speak, mispronounced this specific word. He talked quite a bit about how it was, well, somehow very different there in his mind compared to the actual name. He called it something else. And in general, he said that he really likes this word. In addition to these points, he also reported that furthermore, another significant message concerning the Peace Council is that he does not care for young, attractive men, but rather he prefers women, which without a doubt should truly serve the cause of peace. Additionally, he praised Marco Rubio, saying he performed so well in Munich that he almost fired him. So in general, that's how it is. It was a substantive speech filled with many important messages, which really provide some assurance, create some guarantee that peace is in reliable hands. So, and then, yes, well, besides everything else we have discussed, yes, well, that covers the details regarding Donald Trump's recent speech. In addition to that point, and this is very important to note, now, this is without any stand up reporting, at this particular meeting of the Peace Council, the specific composition of the international, well, what are commonly referred to as the stabilization forces, was officially announced. According to Trump, Indonesia, Morocco, Albania, Kosovo, and Kazakhstan will send military and police personnel to maintain order in Gaza. So, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Turkey also formally expressed their complete readiness, saying they are fully prepared to join the mission at any time. Israel. There is a position of being strongly opposed to this, but nevertheless, the official statement from the Turkish foreign minister was made. So, what exactly is the nature of this arrangement? I truly want, as they say, to live to see Monday. And it is now time to ask Sergei Marat-Shagrabsky how he personally evaluates the effectiveness of this arrangement. I'm asking about the structure of these stabilization forces. I can't wrap my head around it. I can tell you right away, I don't understand how this is going to work because the military forces of Indonesia, it is expected there will be mostly Indonesians involved, along with military personnel from Morocco, Albania, Kosovo, and Kazakhstan, will all serve together. This specific international contingent is scheduled to be led by the American officer, Major General Jasper Jeffers. How all these people will serve under the command of a Major General, I don't really understand. Moreover, the main part of the military are expected to come from Indonesia. Altogether, for this specific mission, there will be 20,000 troops, of which a total of 8,000 are Indonesians. General Jeffers has already publicly announced that a total of 5 different nations have already deployed their troops to participate in these international stabilization forces. They are going to be deployed in the southern part of the Gaza Strip very soon. Well, now, and aside from all of that, they will be trained by those who have passed the vetting process, Palestinian police forces. Furthermore, these forces will also be responsible for providing security in a joint effort with Israel and Egypt. In addition, well, this is already a report at the Peace Council. I was unable to locate any mention of this in the Peace Council's official documentation, but according to a report from The Guardian, in the southern part of the country, the United States is planning to establish a military base in the south of the Gaza Strip designed to accommodate approximately 5,000 troops. Now that's serious. So that means, well, as for the potential participation of Russia in this very Peace Council, I have already mentioned it earlier. That is, apparently, as President Putin said during his recent public address, he is ready to allocate a sum of $1 billion from those frozen funds that are currently being held. So, in fact, well, it is quite clear that this is an entirely hollow and meaningless statement, since it is no longer, so to speak, his own money that he will effectively never get back. But, in a certain way, he essentially announced his full willingness to do so. Another particularly peculiar detail worth mentioning is that the official Belarusian delegation was unable to obtain the necessary visas to take part in the upcoming Peace Council sessions. This occurred despite the fact that they were already in the middle of getting ready to travel there. Had ironed their suits. They had already finished packing their suitcases, but the Belarusian delegation was denied the necessary entry visas. The head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was the one scheduled to represent Belarus there, Maxim Ryzhenkov. But Ryzhenkov was not allowed into Washington. That's it. So, in short, that's the story. Yes, well, what do I think is useful in this whole story? First of all, the fact that Trump has started to learn geography. Now he can pronounce the rich word Azerbaijan without hesitation. Before this, he used to mix things up. Azerbaijan with Cambodia, Armenia with Albania, but that's not important. Apparently now he has already studied geography. So that is essentially the whole story. How the main issue will be completely resolved, the destruction of Hamas, is still highly uncertain. How this can be achieved without further bloodshed is also quite unclear. What the reaction will be in those countries, I mean the very countries that have sent their military forces to the Gaza Strip, if their soldiers are killed there, is also something that remains entirely unclear at this moment. Well, in short, but I really have to say that this is so far the very first significant and practical development, especially if these troops really do eventually find themselves stationed in the Gaza Strip. If a permanent American military base with 5,000 Americans is actually established there, then that is already something very serious and consequential. Once again, regarding the organizational military and military technical various aspects, I am planning to discuss all of these important matters this coming Monday with Sergei Ivanovich Grabsky. So for now, I will not, so to speak, rush into things right now. I will not even try to predict or anticipate what comes next. Try to anticipate what will happen in that spot. We'll see. At the very least, there is, it seems to me, a small glimmer of hope here, a very cautious one. I'm very afraid of being wrong,